Hey, 6+up. My name is Miss Kate. Some of you might have had me before for art class at the Lemoyne Center. This summer, I'm going to be teaching virtually a creative writing course, a creative writing kind of workshop. Some of you who have had me in class know that visual art is kind of my thing. I love making it. I love helping you guys make it, but I'm also a writer. Right now, I live in New York City, and I am going to school, actually to graduate school, specifically for writing and writing about art. So a little bit about what I do is I go to exhibitions or museums, and I look at the shows that they have up, especially of contemporary artists, and I write about what I think about it. And sometimes that means I do a lot of research, or I look into more political or cultural commentary, and I incorporate that into my ideas about art. So it's kind of a specific type of writing, but I also have training in and do quite often write poetry and short stories and different forms of writing that we'll be exploring this summer together. So we have 6 weeks. Each week will kind of have like a different topic. This week is an introduction, and like this is the most kind of patchwork week. We have like a lot of things to do today, but the other weeks will take like one type of writing. We'll look at it kind of closely, look at some examples of it, and I'll try to give you guys a prompt for how to try it out. It's really important to me that you know that writers are just people who write. What I mean by that is if you write, you're a writer. You don't have to worry about it being perfect or it fitting some sort of like structure. Creative writing is kind of about breaking rules. So basically what I'm saying is, yeah, you guys do writing all the time in school. And it's really important to know how to like properly write an essay or an argument, or how to properly write a a research paper. But creative writing, and this course especially, is kind of like it's more up to you how you use it. And I am really okay with you experimenting with things that you probably wouldn't be able to get away with, in terms of like if your grammar or your spelling is not perfect, I will, and you submit it to me, I will help correct it. But maybe we can look at the form and the creativity behind it a little bit more than like the end product. So that's kind of an overview of what this course is, why I'm teaching it, even though I'm a kind of an art person. I'm also a writer too. And yeah, I also just wanted to say to you guys that I'm really proud of you for making it through a school year that probably was not what you expected. I don't think it was what anybody expected. And how resilient you are and capable, and how this has been kind of a hard year for a lot of people. And you should be really proud of yourselves. And I think this summer, maybe we'll give some more opportunities, especially in your writing, to just reflect on everything that has taken place in your life, in the world at large. Writing is a wonderful tool for how to do that. One of the most basic, well, really the most basic principle of writing is language. Language is something that we use all the time. Unless you are a writer, you don't often think about what language means or how to use it or how other people are using it. And part of becoming a better writer, no matter where you're starting, is to constantly basically think about or immerse yourself in different forms of language, different words, different meanings of words, and like to make those things conscious. Conscious means like to bring them to your mind in a way that you can look at them, right? And I think it's also really important, given kind of like where our country is politically, wherever you fall on that, Um, Lots of powerful people use language in very particular ways to convey types of messages, or sometimes to create solidarity or to create community. Language can have like tons of different applications. And it's really good, as you guys are like going to be young adults soon. It's really good to be aware of how language works. So, with that in mind, there's two things that I want you guys to familiarize yourself with so that you can return to them over the summer as we do these writing exercises. So, the first is a dictionary. I know, like I roll, you've heard of a dictionary before. I hope you probably have used one before. Dictionaries are alphabetical books that have definitions of words in them, right? They're really important because sometimes we don't really realize what words mean. We use words all the time that actually mean something slightly different than maybe how we're using them. Or um, alternatively, so on the opposite side, there's all kinds of words that we don't use, we've never, like, I've never heard of, you've never heard of, that are actually like really fitting for what we're trying to say. So, what I mean by that is not that your writing or your language has to be fancy or it has to use really big words in order to get your point across. The cool thing about writing is some of the best kinds of writing uses really succinct, like really clear, short, strong words. Um, and like once you find a word that fits what you, like your voice, what you're trying to say, that word is yours like for keeps. Like it's free, it's a tool that you can use in your expression, in your thinking, in your writing. But that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be some like ginormous, fancy, like Shakespeare sounding word. Not at all. It can be something like just so perfect, so apt, APT, like appropriate for the context that you're using it in. That's what a dictionary is good for. Like reminding us of definitions, finding new words, yada, yada, yada. The other thing, resource, I want you to get familiar with is a thesaurus. That is not a type of dinosaur, even though it sounds like one. You might have used one of these already. Basically, the thesaurus is like your best friend in your journey to becoming a better writer. Even though I'm in graduate school, I use a dictionary and thesaurus every time I read and write, basically, for school. A little note, just like a side note, if you're ever reading something and you don't know what a word means, don't just skim by it. Like, take a second, Google, like, just, it's so easy. Just type it into your phone or your computer or whatever, if you have it there. Or, like, make a note to do that later at school or whatever. Like, look that word up, because the first time you do it, like it might feel like, oh my gosh, I'm looking up so many words, this is exhausting, it's taking me so much longer to get through this book. But the more you, like, the more words you add into your vocabulary, like the less you have to do that, and the more you actually understand about what you're reading. And if reading is like really difficult for you, I am going to be like suggesting a lot of short things this summer to read and to look at. One of them being poetry. Some poems are like only 10 words, and they can have so much meaning and so much content to them. So don't get discouraged if like sometimes school reading seems really boring or really hard for you. You can push through it, and also maybe you haven't found like the right voices, the right books for you. That's just like a complete side note. Back to what a thesaurus is. A thesaurus takes, it's kind of like a dictionary, except instead of a definition for the word, you get like tons of other words that are similar but not exactly the same to the word that you're looking for. So I'm actually going to read you a really cool poem by one of my favorite poets. Her name is Lucille Clifton. And this poem, I don't know. I'll read it first and then I'll tell you. See if you can pick up on what's going on. So the title of the poem is called Light. Ray, stream, gleam, beam, sun, glow, flicker, shine, lucid, spark, scintilla, flash, blaze, flame, fire, serene, luciferous, lightning bolt, luster, shimmer, glisten, gloss, brightness, brilliance, splendor, sheen, dazzle, sparkle, luminous, reflection, kindle, illuminate, brighten, glorious, radiate, radiant, splendid, clarify, clear. And at the very end of the poem, I don't know if you can see this, it says Roget's, I don't know how to say that, thesaurus. So this beautiful grouping of words, this list of words, Lucille Clifton is probably taking from a thesaurus, which is why she, kind of nods that at the end. But she's also probably adding some of those in too. And they're all words that are associated with light. Some of them I had never heard before I read this poem, like luciferous or scintilla, luminous, sheen. Some really beautiful words there, right? And the cool thing about poetry is you can just put all of them in a list, and the way you arrange it is what makes it shine. Makes it really beautiful. I'm gonna put in the comment section, in addition to the email that you guys can send me some of your work in, I will also put a link to a website called Wordsmiths. It has a dictionary for kids and also just a regular dictionary. Both are pretty good, actually. And it also has a thesaurus. You can use that site, or you can also just use Google, Cambridge, or Oxford Dictionary and thesaurus. If you have a computer or a phone, you can use a dictionary and thesaurus on it, and it's free. And what I would like you guys to do is to take a word that you are familiar with. So in the case of Lucille Clifton, it's light, right? Maybe for you it is sky or clouds. It could be place, home. I'm just thinking through some it could just be one syllable words, short words. A word that you're familiar with, and I want you to look at the thesaurus entry for that word and comment that. This will be I'll review this at the end, but this is going to be one of your summative questions. And comment that so that we can all kind of learn some new words about it. So just to be clear, you're going to take the word and you're going to take the whole list of words that come up for it in a thesaurus. So maybe we'll just do that, as a quick example together. So I'm going on to my computer, I'm clicking on the Wordsmiths link that I have sent for you, that'll be in the comments, and I am going to go to, this is actually a dictionary and thesaurus combined. So if I go to the little search thing and I just type in a word which one do we want to do? Let's do home. And I search. What comes up first are all the definitions for what home is. And go ahead and look at those, because that's really valuable and there's some really interesting things. But beneath the definitions, there's something called synonyms. Synonyms are words that you can use in place of that word. So instead of home, I can say abode, which is one of the synonyms for home. Or instead of home, I can say according to a synonym, I could use dwelling or place. Synonyms mean like you could change out that word in the sentence and it might have a slightly different connotation. Connotation means when you hear that word, it makes you think of like these things, these other words, these feelings, these experiences. So I can use abode for the word home, and it means something pretty similar. Synonyms are also, like another form of synonym kind of, are similar words. It's just a way of saying similar words. So what you'll see on the Wordsmith's website or on a thesaurus is usually like a whole listing of synonyms, or similar words. But those all have like slightly different meanings. So on the one for home, for instance, a similar word is a bungalow or a motorhome or shack or townhouse or mansion or apartment. All of those words obviously mean something slightly different, right? So even though those words all refer to home or can be used in place of home, their meanings are like super particular and super kind of latched on to each specific word or type of home. So one of your assignments, your commenting assignments, is to find a word of a thesaurus, can be a word you know or don't know, and just like list all the similar words for it and familiarize yourself with them. Then I would also say, go ahead and choose one of those words from like the listing in the thesaurus. So for like light, if we were looking at Lucille Clifton's Light, I could choose any of those words. Like maybe I would choose flash. And then I would look at the definition in a dictionary for flash and just find out, like, what is the difference between light and flash? I think you guys would be kind of surprised at it. This is something that you can do over the summer as you're writing stuff and you're looking for better words to use. Just don't be afraid to just try something new, try it out. If you're sharing your work with me via email, I'll try to suggest words to you too that you might like, or that might fit what you're trying to say. Because honestly, words are powerful. Words are power, and they can help you get across, what you are going for much better than if you're just kind of using language that you use all the time anyways, that's kind of worn out and maybe needs some refreshing. So that's what like your little comment assignment is, and I'll say that at the end too. But before we go today, I'm going to give you a writing prompt. This is something that you can do for like completely privately, just for yourself, or it's something that if you want feedback on, you can share with me via our workshop email. And your prompt for this week is a letter to your future self. So this moment in our country, in our world, is full of a lot, right? We just had this global pandemic. We're still having a global pandemic. We're in the middle of a huge civil rights outpouring for Black Lives Matter. And you guys are pretty young, and maybe that feels like strange and exciting to you. Maybe it feels completely natural. Maybe it feels, maybe you haven't thought that much about it at all. I don't know, wherever you are in that, I want you to write to yourself right now what you want your future self to remember about this moment. And if you want to share that with me, that would be so cool, and I would welcome that. But I also respect if you don't want to, or you want to do this at a later date. That's also cool. Some of the questions that I would like you to consider in this letter, which is like kind of like writing to a friend, like your future self, 5-10 years from now, you're going to look back on where you are right now and kind of like you would like a friend, like give yourself some grace, give yourself some space to just feel things. Some of the questions are, what is going on in the outside world right now. This could be from the news, this could be from what you heard down the street, it could be from what your friends are talking about on social media. If you've seen protests, I know there was a protest in Washington just, I think, on Saturday, yesterday. There's been tons of protests in New York. What is going on? Like, what do you think about what's going on outside? Also, what's going on inside? Like, where are you emotionally, physically, whatever? Like, what is going on there for you? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling joyful? Are you feeling, like uncertainty? Whatever that is, 5 years from now, I guarantee you might not remember with such specific detail what's happening to you right now. So go ahead and write it out there. What's something you see or that you feel that no one else seems to really be paying attention to? The beautiful thing about writing is that it's kind of like having a witness and a friend to like whatever it is that you are experiencing or that you're noticing about this crazy thing that is life, right? Like so much is happening. It could be something as simple as like, I notice the way that the light falls on my cup right now, or I notice the way that my feet feel, after I've been in the bathtub or like the water for too long. It can be, I feel that no one is noticing, the extreme measure, the outpouring of what's happening right now in our country. Or I feel like no one's noticing me or whatever. What do you see in the world, your unique perspective, your unique voice that you wish more people heard? Go ahead and put that all into this letter, or try. It can be like 5 to 10 sentences. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't even have to be complete sentences if that doesn't feel possible for you right now. That's fine. Just something. Write something. A writer is someone who writes. End of story. So, to summarize, in the comments there will be an email address for you to send writing to. There will be a link to dictionaries. There will be a link to thesaurus/dictionaries, that wordsmith site that I mentioned. For your question to leave in the comments, don't put your letter in the comments unless you want to, that's fine. Just put like a word that you looked up in the thesaurus and all the words that came up when you saw it. Bonus points if it's a word that I'm not familiar with, or if it's, if it's something that is really kind of extraordinary and cool, go for it. And I will see you next week. Okay.